Today, we're going to be doing something a little different, and I'm going to be putting myself in the hot seat for some fun, rapid fire, we'll see, bookish questions, talking about my personal preferences, my reading habits, and maybe a few hot takes. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains mature content intended for adult audiences only. Hello and welcome back to another episode. I'm Alicia, your host, and I'm going to be doing something a little different today, but equally as fun as our usual episodes. My solo episode marks the middle of season 2, which is wild to think about, but thank you so much for being here. I saw my friend who has a booktube, Lisa, over at Babe in Library, so I'll make sure I have her socials and stuff linked in the show notes and the YouTube description. But I saw her do a tag rapid fire bookish takes questionnaire thing. And I was like, yes, I'm going to tag myself and we're going to try to do this. And I just think it'd be really fun as like a getting to know me and also just find a way to talk about something fun and exciting, which I love, which is books. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. Number 1. eBooks or physical books. Now, my bookshelf would say physical books, but when it comes to reading, I prefer to read on my phone and on my Kindle. Just my eyes are able to focus better on the words and what's happening and the storyline when I'm reading that way. So I would say ebook is my preference. Next, paperback or hardback. Definitely paperback. I do not think that I have read a hardback book in years. So it is very difficult for me to read hardback books. Just not interested. Online book hauls or in-store browsing. I'd have to say online book hauls because most of the books that I read tend to be indie authors. And so it's a lot more difficult to find indie authors specifically on like in stores, like if I'm going to Barnes & Noble or something like that. So I'd have to say online. Used books, yay or nay? I'm going to say nay, which might seem silly, but hear me out. If I'm going to be buying a paperback book, aka a trophy for my shelf, I usually want it signed. I want to say 70% of the books that I own are signed in some capacity, whether it's a stamp or a digital signature or an actual signature. I love my signed books. So I don't know that I have ever bought a used signed book before. No, I don't think I've ever bought one before. And so I'd have to say I prefer my books new in that sense. Borrow, buy, or Kindle Unlimited. Well, this is something that I wanted to explore this year and last year of really discovering how much in each of those categories I'm reading, and Kindle Unlimited outweighs most of them, and I'm interested to see if that changes at all this year as I'm really doubling down on being more intentional about reading my own books that I own. So we'll see how that goes. Audiobooks, yes or no? I love audiobooks, and usually you can find me reading about 4 books at a time, a paperback, an audiobook, something on my phone, and then something on my Kindle. So I would say yes to audiobooks. I am definitely an audiobook girly, and I tend to listen at 2 speed. So if that makes any difference. I think that just has to do with working in audio and working in the industry. It is really difficult for me to listen to people's lip smacks or their breathing. I don't want to hear people breathe. So it's a whole thing. I usually have to listen at 2 speed for me to enjoy the stories. All right, moving on. Sweet or spicy romance? I mean, can I have both? Like, I want it to be sweet and I want it to be spicy. But if I had to pick between the two, I would say spicy for sure. Heroes or villains? Definitely villains. There is just something delicious about the bad guy getting the girl, and I don't know what it is, but I eat it up. And I feel like most of the time when we're talking in the romance space, like the quote unquote heroes tend to be cops, and I don't read cop romances. So I don't like heroes. Just give me the villains. And one of the books that comes to mind for that is All Superheroes Need PR by Elizabeth Stevens. And we'll obviously any books that are mentioned, we'll make sure we link those in the show notes as well. But in that one, he says a line, and I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit. Bear with me. But he says, I'm a villain, but for you or for her, I'll be a hero. Like, I'll pretend to be the good guy if it makes her happy. And yes, just want to eat that up. All right. Top 3 favorite romance subgenres. I'd have to say sci-fi is number 1 for sure. I love a good alien romance. Contemporary, I guess, would be the second one. And then, is Omegaverse a subgenre, or would it be counted as paranormal? Probably paranormal would be my third one. Yes, I feel like those. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I like those. Sci-fi for sure. The other ones, I don't know. But yeah, those I would say are my top 3 favorite romance subgenres. All right, do I want my stories to be character-driven or plot-driven? I like a good plot, but this is where, like, this is not going to be rapid fire, guys, because my brain is like, and I love a good plot, but if the character, like, story is not moving it forward either, I feel like I need a mix of the two. But I do like a good plot. I don't really care about like slice of life books where it's more like character driven, like them growing or developing as people. I want the drama. Like, I want the like overarching thing that's happening in the story to be a big point. So probably plot driven. Longer books or shorter books? Oh my God, short books all day long, every day. Like, if I can read a book under 200 pages and get it in one day, I'm here for it. And that's probably how I get through 250-ish books per year, is I'm usually reading 1 or 2 novellas at a time as I'm reading the 4 books. And I try to save the longer books for my Kindle and for audio. So on my phone, I like to read the shorter novellas where like maybe I'm waiting for a file to upload or download for work. And I'm like, let me just open my app and read for a little bit. And then the books, I can't read really thick books. I love thick books, but I cannot read them in paperback because my eyes are just like, what are we doing with our lives here? So yeah, definitely novellas. Long chapters or short chapters, I honestly do not care. Like, I'm not someone who has a preference for that. It doesn't really matter to me at all. It could be an ongoing story and just switch as the character voices switch or as the main plot points happen. And I'm here for it. I don't really care much about like, oh, I'm going to read 2 more chapters today. I don't really read like that. First person or third person point of view. I'd have to say I prefer first person, but I am not opposed to reading a book in third person. I did read a book in second person one time, and my brain fizzled. It was really, really difficult to read that book. And I think it's just because I'm not used to reading in second person. So it's like putting the reader kind of like the chapters game, the game app, where it's like you then turn and you get to decide what the next step is in the, or like if you, and when you were younger, if you read any of those choose your own adventure stories, it's like that, where you're the one driving the story and you get to make the decision. And so it was written in that kind of context without the choose your own adventure. And so it was a little weird to read for me. Found family or biological family focus in romance. I love a good found family, but I also love when a series follows a group of siblings, but I probably read found family more. So that's what I'm going to say for that one. Age gap or friends to lovers. This is hard because I do read a pretty significant amount of age gap romances and not a ton of friends to lovers, but I love a friends to lovers because it usually ends up being idiots to lovers where they are completely oblivious to the fact that they would be perfect together. But I actually realized this recently. I have a hard time reading a book where we jump into the middle of someone's story and then I'm supposed to like just kind of accept the chemistry that these characters have together. And I find that really hard. And I feel like friends to lovers can do that. But I also don't like flashback books. So I don't know. Of the two, I'd have to say probably age gap then, because I have these caveats with friends to lovers. But I do love where like maybe they weren't friends at the beginning of the book and they become friends in the story and then they become lovers, or maybe it's a friends with benefits to lovers. I like those. But when it's like we've been friends and we're going to get some backstory stuff, meh, I don't like it. Or if it's like, oh, we've been friends and we're just now realizing that we like each other, I need to believe the chemistry more than that. So yeah, probably age gap. Small town or big city romance. I'm going to say big city. When I did the roundup for September's Diverse Trope Challenge, which we are running through all of 2025, the theme for September is small town. And as a woman of color, it is difficult to find diverse small towns. And when we see small towns, especially in the United States, and small town romances, they tend to be very white-centered. And that's not what all small towns look like. And so finding more diverse small towns, I think, is really important. But I like the idea of being able to party, being able to like go out and have things to do in the story. And I feel like small towns don't always lend to that kind of development. And also, I spent 8 months in New York City for an internship when I was like 19. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And right now I live in I would say medium-sized town. It's also outside of a military base, so there's just a lot of like military families. And it's fine, but I also feel like there's nothing to do. Whereas when I lived in New York City, there was always something to do and always good food to be had. Whereas here I have to go find it. And I don't like having to do that. So I would say big city romance for sure. Happily ever after or happy for now. This one is harder because I feel like we constitute a happily ever after as they have kids and they get married and all of their problems are resolved and their lives are perfect. And I feel like that's not really realistic at all. And so I feel like a happy for now is more realistic to what life is like and also leaves it open to maybe another book if the person wants to do it, though I would probably never read it. But leaves it open and also shows that they're growing as people, that they're not done. So I'd say happy for now personally, but I don't think I really have much of a preference with that. First, meet cute or grand romantic gestures. I'm going to say neither. But first meet cute makes me think of, I can't even think of what the right word is for it, but it's where they meet and it's a disaster. I like those. So I like the ones where, like, I just finished reading Sunny Disposition by Deanna Gray. I have it right here. I'm going to grab it for those who are watching the video. So Sunny Disposition by Deanna Gray. And they meet in real life for the first time when she is swinging open a door at one of the arenas on their college campus. and cracks him in the nose with the door because she's like not paying attention to where she's going. I like those. So I like when it's like there's drama and it's that first not so meet cute. Yeah, I like those. Which trope am I tired of? I wouldn't say I'm tired of this trope, but I have a lot of feelings about it. I do not like amnesia tropes at all. And at this point, I think I've read one handful of books that had amnesia in them. And I just cannot suspend my belief for that to be the third act breakup or the third act drama. I think it's lazy and I think it's unrealistic. And when I told Mr. We Read Smut this, when I told my husband this, he was like judging me hard. He was like, Alicia, you don't believe in head trauma injuries? And I was like, no, of course I do. Of course I believe that they are real and that they happen and that people do get amnesia. I believe that that is a real thing. But I'd much rather be reading about aliens and their vibrating equipment than about a human who got amnesia and forgot the first 75% of the book I just read. So that is where my problems are. And in the case of, I'm going to grab it again, Sunny Disposition, this is a book that I think actually changed that for me and changed my feelings about amnesia. And the difference is that it happens at the beginning of the book. He gets amnesia and does not remember much of anything, really. Not his friends, not his family or situations with his family. He has a hard time remembering who he was before, and then you see him grow in the whole book into the person that he is now, and I loved it. I love that, but I don't love when we get to see a couple grow together and then this happens and then we have to kind of fix it in 25% of a book. Nah, I'm good. I'm definitely good. So I'd have to say amnesia is a trope that I am not interested in reading much of. All right. Our world or fictional world. So contemporary or fantasy or sci-fi. Definitely fantasy and sci-fi. I think that BIPOC authors and marginalized authors, LGBTQIA plus communities, etc., I think that people in these communities have really been able to create such incredible diverse, and they've been able to create these worlds where it's a world that I would want to live in. And I don't know that I love the world that we live in right now. But yeah, I'd have to say fictional worlds sometimes can be better. And I really enjoy reading about other planets and how fantastical they might or might not be, or how dangerous they might or might not be. So yeah, I'd have to say fictional world for sure. Now we're going to get into my own reading journey and some recommendations that I would recommend for people. So what is one romance book that everyone should read? I'm going to say Real by Kennedy Ryan. I feel like that book touches on so many different parts of human experience that it can really either be a window to the world around us, or it can be a mirror reflecting our experiences. And so I'd say that is one that is so beautifully written and absolutely incredible. The last romance book that I finished was Sunny Disposition. I just finished that one today. And then last romance book that I bought, I'm working on building up my Anna P collection. And so Anna sent me a thing of signed tags that I can add, like stickers that I can add to the front of the books that I have. And so I'm working on building up my collection of her books. You can check her out. She was one of the very first authors that I interviewed in season 1. So we'll make sure that we have that episode linked in the show notes. And the book that I bought was the first in the Wild series, and that one is called Almost Maybes, and it is so good. Underrated romance book recommendations. I'm going to actually, most of them are by BIPOC authors. But I'd say one that is definitely underhyped is probably Church Girl by Naima Simone. We talked about it on the episode with Naima. And that one is just so stinking good, especially if you are someone who grew up in a very religious upbringing and maybe purity culture and no autonomy over your own body. That is one that I think that if you're deconstructing that, definitely recommend checking out that book. So next is the first 3 romance books that come to mind. The first one is going to be Venomous by Penelope Fletcher. This one was a recommendation by Elizabeth Stevens, who writes, if you're looking at my shelf, she has like her own space on my shelf. And she had mentioned how incredible that book is. So I definitely checked it out. It is a very long book, and it probably could have been 2 books, but I'm glad it wasn't because I would not have read it if it was a duet, because I don't tend to read duets. But that one was so good, and I was just talking to someone about that this morning because I saw this person had commented on an Instagram reel that showed Predator in the Predator franchise, Predator, and it said, "Hear me out." I was like, say less, right? Like, absolutely. And then someone mentioned Venomous by Penelope Fletcher, and I was like, oh my God, yes, definitely gives those vibes, hands down. I am trying to make my mood reading brain get ready to read the next one. The next one's over 600 pages. We'll see what happens, but I'm like trying to make myself, like hype myself up to get into the next book because I want to, but I'm just not sure I'm in the right mood just yet. So that is the first one. The second one would be The Next Best Fling, and that one is by Gabriela Gomez. And that one I love because I actually like love triangles. And this one was, I wouldn't even say a love triangle, it was more like a love square. And just how everyone found their peace at the end. It was just so good. Loved it. So that would be the second one. And then the third one, I'm going to say just because it's comes to mind because it is on my screen if you're watching this. But Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. I had the absolute privilege of being able to see Danielle in the last few months and had such a good time talking to her. Her first book that I read was Work Song. That one is another good one. And she says that the female main character from Work Song, who's a curvy Black woman in the corporate space, that she walked so that this female main character could run. And I think that's just so beautiful. But yeah, Curvy Girl Summer, you've got your dating lessons and kind of a lot of online dating, but dating lessons from your local bartender who's also super hot. It is just spicy and it's so good. So yes, all 3 of those I would highly recommend if those are your vibes from what I mentioned about each of them. A romance book that made me cry. We're going to go back to Kennedy Ryan for this one. And I have to say that Long Shot, I sobbed. Like, I was listening to the audiobook and my husband looked over at me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I am not okay." And so, yeah, that was pretty rough and beautiful and all of the things. So yeah, that is one that definitely made me cry. My go-to comfort read. Okay. I don't have a go-to comfort read because I don't reread books like at all. I did reread one book this year, and it was that I had read the digital version, the audiobook came out, and Wesley Siobhan was doing the narrating. So obviously I felt inclined to listen to it. And that was Lilith by Alexandria House, who we also had on the podcast. We'll make sure we link her episode in the show notes. So I don't really reread books. So I don't know that I have a comfort read. So yeah, sorry, not sorry for that one. Last section here. I'm going to try to answer these really quick. We'll see how that goes. Judging a book by its cover, hell yeah. Absolutely. I will judge a book by its cover, and I will buy it based on its cover. Book to movie or TV adaptations, which do I prefer? Neither. I don't really watch a lot of TV, and I don't know that I want, especially because the remakes or the adaptations tend to be whitewashed. And so because I read so many diverse stories, I'm hesitant to want that for any of the stories that I read. If you could live in one fictional romance world, which would it be? I would have to say one of the planets from the Zaviri Mates series that Elizabeth Stevens writes. And I know I talk a lot about Elizabeth Stevens, but if you have not read her yet, what are you doing with your life? But if I had to pick a world, it'd have to be one of the worlds. And I'm thinking probably the Pleasure Planet world, where there's like gambling and parties. And I'm pretty sure there are like waterfalls on that planet, if I'm remembering correctly. I want to go there. Yeah, that sounds like fun. All right. Trilogies or longer series. I mean, don't give me any of those. An interconnected 6-book series, I'm good with. I don't like trilogies because I do not want to follow the same couple for 3 books in a row. I do not care enough about these people to follow them for 3 books. No, thank you. But I would love to see them again, quickly sprinkled in another book. So I would say I really like to read interconnected multi-book series where it's 6+ books and I can kind of follow the friends and maybe it's the siblings or the friend group or whatever. I like those kinds of books. No trilogies, please and thank you. All right, so now that you have learned a lot about me, I want you to pick one of these questions and answer it with the hashtag We Read Smut. And let me know if you want to tag me in it at We Read Smut on Instagram or on Threads. Please feel free to do so. I want to know what your answer is to one of these questions. And if any of these was like, oh my goodness, yes, me too, send me a DM and let me know which one kind of aligned with you and made you feel like, yep, definitely on that soapbox, or right in there with you, Alicia, on that one. Please do not forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite listening app. Leave a rating, review, or a comment wherever you can. Those are really, really appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.